Hey everyone, I'm thrilled to have Kat Kennedy with me today. Kat is a longtime friend and connection, and I've watched her kind of go up the ranks at Degreed and start a lot of great things there. And I'm really thrilled to have her on to talk a little bit more about Degreed, her background, her kind of role as Chief Experience Officer and how that relates to product and tech, and just talk a little bit more about kind of the environment we're in now.
Yeah, and sorry I don't even know what fell off my desk. It's like it's something new that we were about to go live on the stream, but yeah, nice to be on, just on the stream today and talking. And so I'm Kat, Chief Experience Officer, which I joke is a completely made up title. It just means that I get to support product and technology, and I work closely with the security and IT teams as well, which is just really fun. My job is working with the people that build all the things, so can't beat it.
It's a really good spot to be in. Well, tell us a little bit about Degreed and kind of what you guys are focused on, and how you've kind of got to there.
Yeah, so Degreed is an enterprise SaaS company. We work with incredible organizations, some really big logos. Where we focus with them is on helping them to understand the skills of their people. So, those big organizations are hiring thousands of people every single month. Do they know what skills are coming into the organization so that they can better develop them to do the work? And so we help them understand the skills of their people. Then we facilitate connection to learning experiences. So partner with great companies like Pluralsight and Udemy, and just there's so many to name. All of those companies, they're creating the training for upskilling. And so we connect them to those systems. And with our most recent acquisition, what we're helping to do is expose all of the work that exists inside of the organization. So internal mobility facilitation, like what jobs are open, both full-time and also smaller things like projects and stretch assignments and mentoring. So you put all three of those together, and we understand where someone is, understand supply of people, and then we know the work that needs to be done, the demand for skills, and then we're helping to bridge the gap with building skills with what we call our learner experience platform. So it's really just fun work. We get to work with incredible people, incredible companies, and it's all to the betterment of humanity, right? So that cliche of doing work that changes the world, like I truly really do feel like we get to do work that changes the world. So I love it. I love Degreed. I love what we do, and it's been a really fun journey. I've been with the company since 2012 actually, so for 8 years been building Degreed.
Awesome. Yeah, really cool to kind of see how you guys have grown up, and I've had a lot of friends who have kind of come into those doors, and really a big fan from the outside. As people analytics has exploded. Obviously, learning development has exploded, kind of keeping talent around, and exactly what your guys are going after at Degreed. What would you call like the DNA of a good customer experience? And that's going to be from like maybe an individual who ends up being involved with you guys to the company-wide experience to customers who are using you.
Yeah. Our stakeholders could tell you what I'm going to say, because the key word is partnership, and it's the drinking game with Kat, which is how many times will she say partnership on this call? But that really is it. Do we treat our interactions not with a vendor and stakeholder relationship, but do we treat it as a partnership where we're trying to come to the table together and solve problems together? I think that is what makes all of the difference in the world, is are we partnering on solutions versus this is a tool that we are going to put into place to, just technology or a mechanism. That works in some scenarios. It definitely doesn't work for Degreed. We've been able to set ourselves apart through partnership, through working very closely with our clients and the project teams to listen to what they're trying to accomplish. Like, companies spend crazy amounts of money on software. Let's go trying to solve a problem. Instead of focusing on the software and the functions and the features, let's focus on what they're trying to accomplish and use them as your advocates to build the solution together. That's what I believe has created really meaningful relationships with those companies that we serve. And I think they would say that they've got a pretty good customer experience due to it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of customer-led feedback, a lot of involvement. I like the word partnership, obviously, that you use, where it's not it's where you see your customer as a core piece of who you are. You know, we one of my best things I love to do is look at, or best marketing material you can find is go to like Gartner, Trust Radius, G2, and look at their reviews. And that's where I always find like half of my taglines is people are like, this about Cloud App or this about this. And it's like, you can almost, they explain it for you of what it is.
Oh yeah. My head of product marketing sent me this one pager of just, we do interviews with end users and interviews with clients. It made me cry.
Yeah.
Just to hear them talk about how they think of the solution. And it's like, it's just, there's something really special when you get to hear people talk about something that you've built together. Like, it's just pretty special. It's like someone talking about your little baby, you know, everybody thinks their baby's cute, but there's something special when another person says your baby's cute.
Absolutely. Nice to get some validation there. If we're going a level deeper, as you're kind of developing your roadmap, as you're looking at what to do next and kind of thinking about the customer in mind, how does the feedback, the QBRs, the customer advisory boards, you know, interviews, whatever things, how do those shape what you guys work on and hopefully, you know, create a really loyal customer from?
Yeah. Our client advisory board, those people get, I'm sure that they're sick of me because like I've got their cell phones. I'm texting them like, hey, I had an idea. But like that's been it's been massive. As I look back on the 8 years at Degree, the first 2 painful slog because we were doing it alone. Like we were trying to anticipate just from the outside looking in towards those companies, what do they need? What's a solution that we can bring to the table? And so it was our best guess through, yes, a lot of just research, but it was our best guess. And we were lucky that we found an opportunity worth pursuing. But then the 6 years after that, so much different because we can talk to those clients. And so when I'm able to speak to not just the buyer, but also those who are going to be implementing, and we just focus on what are they trying to accomplish? Oh, huge. And so that's what we do is I just try to get as many of those conversations as I possibly can and really listen to what they're telling me. So that's our client advisory board. We meet every single month and we go back and forth between them presenting to each other, you know, like they're all like-minded while they're coming from different industries. The problems look pretty similar that they're faced with. Yeah. So they present to each other, and that's gold to hear them speak about, hey, we came across this. Here's how we're approaching it. And then getting feedback from their peer group on what they've learned or if they've faced something similar. And in those conversations, it's a beautiful thing because we can hear the opportunities for Degree to step in and make that challenge a little bit easier to overcome. And then the meeting following that, we'll talk about what we heard. Hey, I heard you articulate this. Here's what we think that means for how Degree can better serve. Is that right? Is that not? You know, and it's a safe space for us to come up with like crazy ideas and be like, is this crazy? What roadblocks are we going to run into if we go after this? And it's a relationship of trust. They give us very candid feedback. And in that group, like as we form those relationships, they'll call me when they run into an issue. I'll call them when I'm sensing an opportunity, and I can check that thinking in real time. Those relationships can be beat. And it's not just our client advisory board where we have that type of dynamic. We try to scale that across so many different clients. So if our product management team isn't spending like 10 hours a week on the phone with clients, like they're not doing it right. They've got to be talking to them. They've got to be hearing from them, and they've got to make sure that they're having not a vendor and client relationship, they're having a partnership and a human relationship with those companies. So that's where I try to focus both on my own interactions and on across the team. Are we having empathetic human connections with the people who use our technologies? Because that makes all the difference.
That's great. You know, one of my favorite things to do at Cloud App is we have this like public Trello board. And I love when we actually release the feature and we move it, you know, from in production to released, and we get all these comments and like everybody, you know, is real excited. What do you guys, do you do that as kind of like a part of your cabs where you're like, hey, remember those great ideas you came up with? They're actually live now, you know, that type of like validation. How do you guys kind of execute on that?
Yeah, so we also have product council. So our cab is like 10 hand selected by me and our head of client experience. Just like, these are people that like I feel safe bringing crazy ideas to, and I know they're going to give me a real response, not just like, yeah, cool idea, Kat, we love it. They'll be like, that's terrible. What are you doing? So that's our client advisory board. And then we have our product council, which is a broader group, and they're segmented by industry type. And then we have our entire client base. And every time that we do an impact release, so Degreed releases every 2 weeks, and then every 2 months we have an impact release. Ahead of the impact releases, we do a release webinar, and that's where we're hearing the feedback of like, hey, you know, hey, Barry, at Airbnb, you told us that you needed this. Here it is. Check it out, Barry. You know,
nice.
And that's where we're having that interaction.
That's cool. Yeah, it has a nice like way of building community as well as you know, validating, like you said. How can, you know, we're streaming right now. Video is kind of taken over. I know you're obviously a Cloud App user.
I am. I use it all the time.
How can you know, screen recorder videos or screenshots or annotations? You know, we just released video annotations for Mac. How can those things really help connect with your customers? Visuals and video different.
Yeah, we're only meeting once a month, which isn't that much, right? And me getting on the phone and trying to explain a product concept can be very difficult. So what I'll do is record it, send them the video. Even like I just use the video annotation with so money. Love it. By the way, thank you for that. I can be like, this thing, point at it. Or like if I was sitting in the room with them, I'd be pointing at my screen and highlighting a certain area. I can do that now with the video annotation. I send that over and then call them after they've watched it. And we're able to have a very rich conversation now with all of the context. And I know that we're talking about the same things because they were able to get insight into my brain through that video. And I also use it with investors as well, just to make sure that they're updated on big opportunities that we see. We're a distributed company across the globe. We've always been remote, but especially in COVID, where we're not having the face-to-face interactions at all. And instead of just slacking people, I can send them a message, video recorded, and it just feels a little more human. It feels more real than like my Slack. I joke about this all the time, but like my Slack tone is a very mean tone. I sound not like a nice person on Slack. And so it's important that I do these videos for my directs and my teams so that they can hear like, oh, she's not actually angry. Yeah. She was just trying to get a point across. And so I'm very grateful for Cloud App and our ability to do that quickly and at scale. It's huge.
Yeah, it's amazing how just tone and that context can be, because I feel like most people sound angry, or maybe your brain just like thinks,
our brain doesn't
angry.
Like. Yeah,
it's very true. You know, Degreed is all about learning, content, skill building. How has that helped to create those loyal customers? How have you been able to land and expand quickly, and how has that kind of influenced your growth?
Yeah. So, oh man, where to even begin? Um, the wonderful thing about what degree does is it's a problem that everyone immediately can connect with, whether they have felt that personally or they've seen it across their own teams. The world has evolved so quickly, and our ability to keep up with it from just seeing people and understanding where they're at, well, it hasn't. So, like, everyone has felt or seen that injustice play out. So we're lucky that as soon as we talk to anyone, whether it's an end user or ultimately the buyer of the solution, they get it. They're like, yes, this is a need that we have. And then we get to talk about what the world looks like as we solve it together and what that looks like at scale. Like, we do enterprise contracts, and most of our implementations start enterprise wide. They're rolling it out to the whole company at once. And that is just so powerful, because then we get to see how people are interacting with the system. And yes, there's setup that goes in ahead of time, but just, I think, ultimately, to answer your question, what it comes down to is, can we tell the story about what the world looks like as we collaborate together, not just talk about feature function? That's what we've done differently from the beginning, is connected with the story. It's been very human, and that then creates like loyal users. It's something really, it's just really special to hear from our clients, because they talk about the story in the same way that we do. They desperately want to enact the change, and knowing that we're providing technology that helps to enact that change, it's pretty fun. It's really, really fun.
That's cool. Your brand has kind of eclipsed the product itself when you have a community like that. That's kind of helping you to accelerate it. That's cool.
Well, yeah. One of these days, the product will catch up to the brand, but I think it's great when it never does. It just means that the story keeps ahead of us, and we have an exceptional product. We really do. But it's something really special when the opportunity and everyone's commitment to enact the change overshadows the technology itself. It's special.
Yeah, you're always selling a 3 to 5 year vision, right? It's always like, half these products we're talking about will never ship, but this is how we see the future going.
Yep. Yeah, I was having a conversation with the prospect this morning, and just having the candid conversation of like, this is the part that Degree is going to play. Like, it's going to be this much. Everything else is already in your ecosystem. It's how we tie those things together that really enacts the magic. And I think as technologists, we can get thrown off sometimes that simplicity is actually the answer, because we'll think, oh, all these features, all these functions are going to be like the game changer, when it's like, nope, a simple solution could make all the difference in the world if you overthink it, and that prevents you from actually getting it delivered and into the hands of people. Then no change happens at all. And so that's what I'm always kind of working with even our go-to-market teams on. It's like, actually, the answer is simple. When it's overcomplicated, we don't get anything done. And it's a fun moment when you're on with a prospect or a client, and that clicks for them. Like, oh, this is so simple, but the execution and the simplicity is really cool too.
It's so true. Like Cloud App, one of our aha moments where it really gets sticky is not the screenshot itself or the video itself, which are pretty simple to do. It's when you mentioned earlier, someone watches that video or views that, and you get an email or you see that analytics. And that's when people are like, whoa, not only did I just do this and send it, but someone actually looked at it. And it's like, that's when people, like, the usage just goes crazy when people kind of hit that moment. So it's such a simple little thing, but that's when it kind of explodes.
Yeah, I can attest to that moment of like when you get the notification of like someone's watched it, and it's like, ooh, they're getting there. We're about to have a real good conversation.
Definitely. So I like to flip things around a little bit at the end and kind of ask you as a customer yourself, what has an experience been? Maybe it's been a local business with how they're treating, you know, everything this year. Maybe it's a tech company that you work with or vendor. What's an experience you've had as a customer yourself that has made you more loyal, makes you want to talk about it in this moment? And what did they actually do that did that?
Yeah, and I truly mean this. It's Cloud App that like I sent, I think it was you and Scott an email and just said like, I wish this existed, which is, I was living out my own worst nightmare as a product person when like you get the emails of like, what if in a world you could do this thing? And I was like, I'm going to do that to someone else. Might as well. And the response that I got was, not just a thank you for your feedback, Kat, but it was Scott. Yeah, we'll consider it. Like, wasn't cast aside.
Yeah.
I would never do that to a client. It happened, and they would tell you so. But it was recognition of what I was actually saying. So thanks, Kat. Here is what I hear you asking for. If I walk through this scenario, here's what I see the experience looking like. And it wasn't just one proposal. It was 3 different. It was, here's what it could look like in this scenario, or is it this one, or is it this one? And so I felt listened to and understood. And then I also felt a part of the solution because my feedback was asked and then we went to the next level. So it really set up the conversation in a powerful way and used Cloud App to facilitate those conversations as well. So it was just a really good exchange. And I learned quite a bit from it because the utilization of your own product in that discussion, alongside just like really great service, it inspired me to take that and apply it in my own interactions with our partners. So yeah, I truly mean it. Like that's one of the moments that stuck with me. And that was what, like a year ago that we had that exchange?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Scott's a wild man with support. Like he'll be DMing people on Twitter from our brand handle.
Yeah.
And like I'll see responses, you know, like Saturday night at like 10 p.m. And he's like trying to get to the bottom of it, and he'll have Zoom calls with people that are complaining on social channels or like reaching out. And it's just, yeah, he's a wild man. It's pretty cool. We've definitely tried to focus on that customer first, like you guys.
Yeah, and it shows. It really does. Yeah, I've got a good chunk of the team using it now. Which,
nice, love it.
Speaks for itself when
Awesome.
it starts to spread, right?
Awesome. So if you pull out your crystal ball and you look into it, what do you see the future of? I normally ask experienced business, but I kind of want to dive into Degreed a little bit more and just say, what do you see the future of learning and skill building and really kind of maybe even more broad of like people analytics and that in general?
So people are like, she's going to geek out. And I am. Get prepared. I have this fascinating conversation all the time with clients. And I call it like the 10 million pound gorilla in the room. We still talk about work like we talked about work in the industrial age. It is, here is your title and here is your role. And that's not what work looks like anymore at all. But like enterprises rely on this definition of work, which is super high level and doesn't actually mean anything related to the work to be done. And I didn't come from an HR background, was a software developer before Degreed. And my naivety and my inexperience in the industry has paid off beautifully because I'm like, oh, I didn't know that wasn't a question that we ask. and at some point in every exchange with a client, they're going to say, well, our job codes are just a mess. And I'm like, what do you mean they're a mess? And they're like, well, project manager can mean 30 different things, but it's only project manager. And it's like, then what do we do? Then what do you do? And they're like, we figure it out. And it's like,
just hack it together.
yeah. And it's like, well, let's dig into how many inefficiencies. And the reason why they haven't solved it is because we don't have a better definition of work yet, because we don't have the right ingredients to give us that information at scale. Like, these organizations have hundreds of thousands of individuals, like cities that work for them. And so, like, yeah, that's a really tough problem to solve. And they haven't been able to address it because they didn't have the right ingredients. But now technology is such, and the ecosystems of those technologies are such, that we do have the right ingredients. And we've got data science that can do some predictive analysis on it and start to have a better articulation of what work looks like. So what I'm excited is we're right on the precipice of that moment of getting to a better understanding of work, what it looks like, what it's evolving into. And the moment, like, where it starts to be like, it's no longer funny, it's kind of scary. If we don't solve that, well, automation is happening. Work is changing. So for us to be efficient, we have to have better answers to keep up with where technology can potentially take us. And so that's what gets me excited. I think the way we talk about work is going to change drastically over the next 5 and especially 10 years. And what that means for us as people is we all get to apply our strengths in creative ways when we don't have this broad box applied to us and here is you at work, but like, here's you and your strengths at work, and here's how you can apply them in this massive machine. That's so beautiful. It's beautiful for people. It's beautiful for organizations. So yeah, I geek out over it, but like, that's what I believe the future looks like, is we're going to have better definitions for work. And that's going to lead to more just like meaningful experiences for employees and way more efficiency for organizations. And when you can, like, usually those come at the cost of the other. No, they don't have to. They can help each other along. So
that's great. Yeah, and no better time than the present to be disrupting, the modern workplace. And I agree. Like, one of my favorite managers and at Adobe, who I had for probably 4 years, she always worked with my strengths. She's like, I know you're not like uber data science guy. You can do good stuff with data and we'll work with that. And then we'll put you with data science guy who cannot tell a story like you can. And you can kind of work together. And like, she knew that just from her experience, being at the end of her career and effort. But like, if we can figure that out via technology, all the better, versus having to rely on just, not everybody has that skill of recognizing what your talent is, right?
And like, she got it through experience, so she could see it.
Yeah.
Could we give those without the experience visibility? Because I think with transparency often comes realization. We can see things. We're like, well, we can see things. So we can bring that transparency out. I think those that aren't as experienced are going to be able to see it. When they see it, they can action it. So that's where I get very excited about what we're headed into.
Very cool. Kat, it's been a real fun conversation. Thank you for your time today.
Thank
you. Everyone check out Kat_the Geek on Twitter. And connect with her on LinkedIn as well. And check out Degreed. And thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.